Hi everyone, today I want to share with you my tips for planning a minimalist wedding. Alright, I recently celebrated my 4-year wedding anniversary and I posted a couple of the photos on Instagram, and a few people requested that I do a video discussing my tips for a minimalist wedding. Now, at the time I got married, I did not consider myself a minimalist. However, both of the ceremonies I had were extremely minimal, and I'm going to talk more about that as well. The first ceremony was at a park in Coral Gables, which is near Miami, Florida, and we got married on top of a picnic shelter with a very nice view of a lake and several different large banyan trees. We asked one of our friends to be the officiant, and there was probably around 15 guests. We also hired 2 violinists for music and a photographer. Now, because the officiant was our friend, the ceremony itself was not legally binding. So we had a break after the ceremony so my husband and I could go over to the courthouse and get those papers signed, and then everyone met up again later to have a lunch and drinks together. Our second ceremony was in Korea, where we were living at the time, because we had a lot of friends and we were really involved with our church there. Everyone wanted to celebrate with us, so we had a ceremony on kind of the side of a mountain, and then we all went out for Korean barbecue afterwards. Now, the inspiration for our weddings actually came from a movie which is called The Vow, and I'll link a clip of that scene in the description box if you want to check it out. What I really liked about that clip is how spontaneous and casual it was. They got married in an art gallery without permission, and at the end they ended up getting chased out of there. It really resonated with me, and I think that's why I ended up having a more minimal wedding, even though I didn't consider myself a minimalist. Now, the first tip is to find out what matters to you most. Now, the average wedding costs around $26,000 in the United States. I did see some 2016 averages as high as $36,000 for the average wedding. And there's plenty of budgets out there that break down that figure and show you every single small component of what money needs to be spent on. I recommend finding one of those lists and just start crossing off everything that's not important for you. Maybe having party favors isn't that important to you. Maybe having a DJ isn't that important to you. Maybe it's not that important to you that all of your bridesmaids are wearing the exact same matching dresses. Once you've crossed off everything that's not, take the remaining items and then rank them in order from what is the most important and to what is the least. This will really help you understand exactly what is the most important thing to you. And if budget is an issue, then you now have a way to look at the bottom of that list and see what things you can also not include just to get the wedding into the budget that you have. The second tip is that it's your wedding. Don't let anyone pressure you into thinking it needs to be done a certain way. At the end of the day, it's not your sister's wedding, it's not your mother's wedding, it's not society's wedding, so you're free to do it however you want. Just because most people have chairs at their wedding doesn't mean you have to have chairs at your wedding if you don't want them. My third tip is to think about the true reason or the true purpose for this event. And in my opinion, that's making a promise, that's making a covenant, that's making a commitment. I really believe if people spent as much time, energy, and money preparing for their marriage as they did in planning their wedding day, that the divorce rate would be much lower. And when I was discussing this with my husband, I remember saying, I don't want to spend all this money on the ceremony. I want to save some of this money in case we need counseling one day. For us, this day was about making a covenant before God, and we wanted to be fully present for that commitment. We didn't want to be distracted by a whole bunch of people we hardly know, or hosting events and wondering if people were having fun or not. My next tip is to delegate some of the important tasks to family and friends. If your family and friends who are most important to you were able to contribute in some way to the success of the event, then it's going to be much more memorable and special for everyone. In our case, my mom was in charge of making a chocolate cake, my friend was in charge of making a bouquet of flowers. The only stipulation was that they all needed to be white, and she bought them from the supermarket on the day of, and she was able to handle that. She also did my hair, another friend did my makeup. Another friend was the coordinator for the ceremony, so she made sure everyone was in the right place at the right time. My stepdad was in charge of setting up a camera and pressing record for the ceremony. My dad was in charge of planning the stag do. One of my friends planned the hen do. My sister was my DJ. She was also my driver to the ceremony. So I think if you're able to let go of a little of the control and really allow your friends and family to contribute, you're gonna have a lot less stress and a lot more fun. My last tip would be to keep it simple and avoid wedding services when possible. There's a lot of systems and services set up there for people getting married, and they are extremely expensive. For example, you could buy traditional invitations, or you could take the time to make your own. We just went ahead with an e-card or an evite, which is online through email, through a website. It handles all the RSVPs, and because we went with type of invitation that you would use for any party, it cost us nothing. Also, when we were booking a private room at a restaurant where we wanted to have a meal together after our ceremony, at no point during the negotiations did we mention that this was for a wedding. We simply said that it was a party, and because of that, we got a really good rate on the food. So while this isn't a comprehensive list, I hope it did give you a few things to think about if you're planning on trying to have a more minimal wedding. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.